I had a conversation with a collective of women, and I am appalled at what I heard in that conversation. When I talked about serving your partner, the majority of them snapped at me completely. We not slaves. We ain't slaves. Misogynistic, patriarchy, yeah. And so I asked them, do you want to get married? Yeah. You want to get married and you don't know that you have to serve your partner?
Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician.
You are good, you pleasant. You just got to be pleasant to be around and get one or two check boxes. And if you're pleasant to be around long term, you can usually find some dude that's black, a black man, a respectable black man. So the truth is, those women don't have an incentive to get married. I mean, not get married, but those women don't have an incentive to change the laws because they're not going to be affected. You see what I'm saying? It's not like the stuff is so bad that a black woman is just incapable of getting married. Kevin Samuel, and if you believe what these women were saying, they talk about they get mad proposals. Mm-hmm. So really, a lot of these chicks just gotta say yes. So they're not incentivized to do it because it's not enough. It hasn't hit a saturation. And then what do you hear these sisters saying? I don't really want to be married. We've come to the conclusion in this space, you got dudes that want to be married more than the sisters.
Yeah, sadly. Right, sadly. Shout out to my man Maurice for the Angry Man tag. Shout out to him. And we got the man of the hour. He was on my show. He shut it down, my man, Angry Man. Angry Man, how would you like to add clarity to this conversation? We me and Edward have more or less been breaking things down, but also there's a very, how can I say it, very liberal construct called partner. And I call it's part of what's called the neologisms. Well, anyway, I can't say that word. It could be a tongue twister. But anyway, what do you think about the word partner versus wife, in your opinion, brother?
Well, what's going on, y'all? It's
what's going on?
It's part of the problem. It's also part of the reason why women today don't want to get married. It's funny because they do want to get married, but they don't want to get married. But the reason why is because they want to redefine marriage. Mm-hmm. You know, so the reason why they're using the word partner is because they don't want the wife title, because the wife title is you know, it has all of these different expectations that come with it. You know, if you're going to be a wife, that means you're going to be a mother, that means you're going to be a homemaker, that means that there's certain duties you have to do with that. So they want to use the word partner to try to take away the women work part of it or the gender part of it. Mm-hmm. And that's really the reason why nowadays they don't want to get married. It's because they want their cake and eat it too. Mm. They want to be able to be married. They want to be able to have the benefits of a 1950s husband. Right. But they want to be able to live like a 2022 feminist. Right. And it's like, that doesn't work. For one, when men, you know, decide to get married, men sacrifice a great deal to be married. Mm-hmm. You know, we have to attempt to be monogamous. Right. Which is a uphill battle for men biologically. Right. You know, which is a discussion that never comes up. You know, we never have that discussion about men not being naturally monogamous creatures. So we have to give that up in addition to taking on the responsibility, just like Edward said earlier, you know, when I tuned in where he's talking about the marriage laws. It goes even deeper than the marriage laws. It goes all the way down to the actual definition of marriage. If you look at the definition of marriage in the marriage license, men are still in the position to where they own their wives, right? Right. to a degree, and you know, most people hear that and be like, well, we should have more power. No, that's not really what it means. What it means is you're responsible for her.
Right.
So when this is the reason why when you get divorced, you have the misfortune of making more money than her, then they expect you to continue to take care of her until some other guy marries.
Right.
So they're expecting you to actually take on the responsibility of this woman as if she was your child.
Right.
So there's a lot wrong with not only the marriage laws, but there's a lot wrong with the definition of marriage, which is very archaic. You know, and really, you know, I actually talked about this in you know, the book I'm trying to get out.
Yes, sir.
One of the problems with marriage is the contract of marriage should be a mutual contract that is determined. You know, no relationship is one size fits all. So why we don't have the ability to draft our own marriage contracts makes absolutely no sense to me. And once you draft that contract should be between you and the woman. There should be no third party. The state shouldn't be a third party to that.
Right.
So that's where the biggest problem is coming in at, is you know, it's so much involved in it. It's the marriage thing. It's the fact that they pretend like they're not still operating under the Duluth model, but they are. So every time something goes wrong in the marriage, the guy gets blamed for it. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that, you know, we've all been addressing here, you know, for a long time. And you know, and like I said before, there's a sinister motive behind it, because we could be sitting here talking about these things, and just out of nowhere, you're gonna have women pop up and say, "Oh, you guys are bashing."
Right.
How are we bashing?
Right.
Having a conversation about the facts. You know,
about the facts. Right.
Like it's a violent act for men to advocate for themselves, which is why everybody always putting these petitions out there, which is why every time a dude tries to do something crazy, we ain't had nobody do, man, it's like every 3 or 4 years somebody does something that's black. The DC stuff, you know, it ain't, black men don't wild out like that, especially compared to the type of crap we got to deal with. You got every 90 days a white person's doing something, and that's basically old news. It's like a Chicago shooting. It's just under the tick mark. But the point is, to women, like I said in the beginning of the video, black men advocating for and here's what's crazy: black men are not even advocating 100% for their position. They're advocating for what works for the group. They're advocating for reciprocation. That is considered a violent act to a lot of women.
Yeah, and it's like, and you know, I'm glad Edward is up here, because he can actually shed some light on this, because I really got to point this out. All the way back to 2015, 2016, the vast majority of guys that are here talking about these topics, I don't think I've ever heard any guy, maybe one or two obscure figures that are not really household names like that. I haven't heard any single guy advocating for any type of violence or any of that crap. And in fact, the vast majority of the guys here, the motto was vote with your feet.
Right.
Was leave if it's really, you know, that goofy or whatever. But you know, it's to the point where it doesn't really matter what you say, you know, because if you're not, it's almost like if you're not doing anything physically, it's like, oh shit, we can't get them on that. So let's say that their words are hurting us.
They've said, you know, I remember, I forget what clip, where they were saying that black men dating out is a form of abuse. You've got dudes talking about I mean, keep it real, you know, they'll act like dating non-ADOS women is a problem.
Right.
But you've got the violence. Colorism is violence against women. featureisms, getting a white woman dipped in chocolate, the fat stuff, the fact that we're pointing out stats. But most of the things you heard dudes saying back in the day was you had the wall of silence, you had with Soul and Black indifference, then you had SYSBM, which is still active. Then which there's even a lot of dudes. Look, they have a right to do what they want to do, but you have a lot of dudes that act like that's problematic, which I don't understand. That passport bros or dudes leaving the country, regardless of people agree. This is what black men are talking about, because black men understand. You don't. The biggest thing that somebody said that you should do to women that everybody rose up and won and said you shouldn't do was alpha male strategies. And alpha male strategy said, y'all need to just start lying to these women. Say whatever you need. And everybody, for different reasons, said, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, I did that because you're not going to win that lying game with women. Not in this society. So y'all don't even need to get on that. In fact, it's funny, because me and Angry Man got into it, and I ain't going left, but on BGS's channel one time, because we were having a discussion about a lot of these women saying crazy stuff and flagging people's channels. And I was on team under no circumstances do that. Now, I understood why people wanted to do it. And the reason I bring that up now is because I was on Bernard Riley's show, and the chick said, well, why, if these women say all these horrible things, why don't you flag their channels? Because she tried to bring up Frank James as an example of why aren't we looking for these obscure people? I said, because number one, that's a game we're gonna lose. You think, and Red Supreme said, and this was so, I didn't even catch this because I don't listen to these women. YouTube runs ads on these females' channels.
Yeah.
So these divestors channels, the stuff that he was playing where he said that people need to start having post-birth abortions for black men, which is advocating for violence. You got ads on there, which means YouTube knows it's there.
Right.
And then when you got people that's got like 50,000 or 100,000 subs, you're not gonna tell me YouTube ain't watched them channels. So watch this. I'm not even trying to jump on Cynthia G. I can't wait until Cynthia G puts that video out where she shows her YouTube flag. Because then you can't tell me YouTube don't know.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna lose that game. That's why I say that.
See, here's the thing with that though. You look at, it is a losing battle when you try to come at it from a certain angle. Like we do have to remain in a certain logical, analytical space, a certain practical space, because they have an advantage over us. Like when I saw Cynthia G on Fox Soul, I was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So you got Cynthia G on Fox Soul, you got freaking T.S. Madison on Fox Soul. And it's like they have an entire media machine behind them, which is the reason why, and most people don't even realize this, the reason why a lot of us started this shit was to make a space so damn powerful that it could rival mainstream media. You know what I'm saying? Because we know they're going to get ushered in. All they have to do is be on some black men ain't shit, and somebody's going to give them some sort of endorsement, some sort of deal, some sort of whatever. Because look, I ain't got nothing against Cynthia G per se.
Right.
I don't agree with a lot of her talking points. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And once I found out what it really was that is bothering her, I stopped taking it seriously because I know what the issue is now.
What's the issue, Anchor Man? What's the issue?
Her father.
Right.
Her father. Her father gave a poor example of a black man.
Yeah.
And she's basically been, extrapolating that onto every black man she encounters or whatever.
Right.
That's where the issue is, and I hope that eventually she deals with that. But there's a lot of black women that operate that way. They want to make every black man the man that did them wrong.
Right.
It's ridiculous, but we have to operate in a very different way. We kind of got to operate like pirate radio, slide in as much good information as we can, you know what I'm saying? And try to avoid as much foolishness as we can. But you know, with the women, like there's a chick right now, and I'm not going to say her name because I'm not going to promote her channel.
Right.
There's a chick right now that's a divester.
Mm-hmm.
Her icon is a silhouette of a tree with a black girl sitting on one side of the tree reading a book, and on the other side of the tree, it's a black man hanging from.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
I'm so serious.
And that is not new with that channel.
Serious. And that channel,
are you serious?
That channel has been there forever. YouTube has not taken that channel down. And you know, it's kind of, look, I can tell you something right now that I figured out when it came to the whole flagging war thing.
Right.
You know, and it back then I did believe that we should have did the same thing. That's why me and Edward got into that disagreement. Mm-hmm. But I found out that when you flag a channel and you're a guy, they don't give a shit.
I believe it. Listen, brother, I've seen some situations, you know, on Facebook where the woman could be saying some very misandric overtones, but what they'll do, they'll put me in 30-day probation or whatever. To the point, I started even debating on Facebook. I don't care anymore. Yeah. Because they're very biased towards what we say, you know, and the fact that, and you know, Ingram, man, you and I talked about it. You know, we talked about it a little bit. It's definitely part of, in my opinion, something more sinister. And I won't talk about it. An oligarchy behind the scene to control and to more or less inflict a level of mental distress on men and mankind. That's why I say it's men, white men, black men, all
and
men.
Women buy more stuff.
Right, right. They buy more stuff.
Especially black women.
That's the other thing. They are an economic force, and that's part of the reason that they put so much backing behind them, because they know they can monetize them much easier. That's why on my channel I'm always preaching about brothers supporting each other, men supporting each other in general. Because the moment that, you know, mainstream media or any of these large corporations see that men and the type of content we have is monetizable, you'll see the shift in, because really some of it is about money.
Right. I totally agree. Shout out real quick to my man, Sir Hell Speaks, with that $10 super sticker. He says, salute to the kosher clinician, shout out to Edward and the Angry Man brother. And that is a deal, right? Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, and real quick, a lot of what, and that was a theory on YouTube at the time, what I thought that would happen, but that was based on the experience I had in Facebook, you know, and I know YouTube is a different platform, and that's why I thought that. And I was sitting there saying, like, at the end, because here's the thing. We didn't know at the time that certain channels would be able to be knocked out and then come back, knocked out, come back. Because remember what happened with 1.0. A lot of them never came back, you know, and they came back. But, you know, you got SWP still there, but he's at 5,000. You know, they never came back the way they were because the algorithm changed. And you know, you got people like Jab and stuff where, I mean, other than like really you and Tommy, Jab's been hit more than anybody. And that's another person they always mention. They always mention Jab. And I always say, if you look at how Jab talks to women when they're actually they're calling in, don't do that, because Corey Holcomb does that same mentality. It's comedic, but it's serious. And it's as, you know, so when y'all try to say that, I'm like, actually give me the clip of what he said. And they never want to do that. And that's another thing too. They never want to play these clips or give us these screenshots of email of what these random dudes are doing or saying in these chats. Because for the most part, we watch our chats. Because if our chats, wild, like, you know, the words, the J word, the F bomb, we say that in the chat, they'll knock people down. So the manosphere has to be very slick about that. And it ain't just big channels. I know channels smaller than me that they stay, like Roger stay getting targeted. And he don't even say stuff like I'm worse than he is. But anyway.
Yeah, real quick. Shout out to my man, the Ingram experience, real quick. And somebody told me that Burnout Rally got shut down. I don't know how true it is, but got shut down earlier. But Ingram, what's going on, brother? He is a fellow Libra too. How would you like to add to the conversation real quick, dog?
Hey, you know what, man, brother? It's great to be among such honorable men. The Angry Man, I watch his show. I send a little crazy chats, super chats every once in a while, but I like to put a face behind the message. But I like to support the brothers, man. I support the Angry Man channel, subscribe. I support, you know, anything that has to do with advocating for the brothers, you know, empowering the brothers. I'm at it 1,000%. I think the biggest problem that you have is what happens with the culture, and they try to silence the truth. Anytime men speak the truth, they don't want men speaking or advocating for men. And it's just bad for business. So I think, honestly, the reason that's why they're trying to link the manosphere itself with so much negativity, because if you could demonize the manosphere, then it's easy to silence it, because ultimately, if you're educating brothers, you're educating men, they're not doing some of the stupid things that they usually do, and the flow of the money ain't flowing like how it usually is. So I think that's ultimately the goal, is to silence.
Oh no, I totally agree. I agree 1,000%. Anger Man, you talked about something called Beano, and me and Edwin had a very poignant conversation earlier as we talk about this evolution of masculinity and how men are beginning to evolve. I want you to reiterate to the audience what Beano means.
It basically means black in name only, because the definition or the culture of blackness has fallen from its former glory. The culture of blackness used to be represented by James Brown, Ernie Barnes, Miles Davis, James Baldwin, Dr. King, Malcolm X, and now the culture of blackness is represented by Megan Thee Stallion, Amigos, everything about our culture, and every culture has its positives and its negatives, but for some odd reason, our negatives are always pushed to the forefront, and when I was younger, I engaged in certain things and was involved in a lot of foolishness, but I grew up, and I look around and I don't want my children to be influenced by that or to live in that type of world. So my thing is, I believe that there's a emergence of black people that, when they look on Instagram, they don't want to see a chick's naked ass. When they look on rap, when they look on freaking music awards, they don't want to see Megan Thee Stallion twerking, and you literally got black senators sitting front row applauding it. They don't want to live in neighborhoods where they got to worry about their kid playing outside and getting hit by a stray bullet.
Right.
They don't want to live in an environment. And look, let's keep it real. Like I've been a street dude, but back in the day when I was a street dude, if we were on a stoop, shooting dice, if three old ladies came walking down the street, we would hide the dice.
Right. Out of respect. Right.
We would hide the dice and move out of the way. And if they were coming into that building and they had bags, we'd help them with their bags. How you doing, Miss Margaret? How you doing, Miss So-and-so? How you doing? How's your mother doing? Everybody knew each other. But nowadays you got this foolishness where you got these young kids just killing each other like it's a video game.
Right. And I'm going to tell you something, you and Edwin, also the Ingram experience, something that I've noticed, and I pray to God that this doesn't happen to this channel on the show tonight. But Ingram, man, I did a show with you, and we didn't say nothing vitriolic or nothing. It didn't get monetized, limited ad advertisement. I did one with Mr. Palmer. We didn't say nothing disrespectful, but it said limited ad advertisement. So I'm like, well, what did we do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, yeah, it's automatic with me.
You were live streaming. You were LWB. You were live streaming while black.
You talking about stuff like body counts and all that other stuff that women ain't trying to hear that stuff, man. Kosher, women ain't trying to hear that.
Well, I've even talked about geekdom stuff, and then they'll still do it. I'm convinced that if I didn't know better, I would just say if you do it live, because you upload it, it's not the same thing. But another thing, real quick, I want to say, because this is actually a thing I forgot about, because it's not really about like Cynthia G. That's just an example. But like, let's take it out of that. Like, let's say Tasha K, for example. So Tasha K basically got sued. And look, I'm not here to advocate for people to have their channels. We're just talking about YouTube's policy, how YouTube go about stuff. Because Tasha K got sued. She lost the suit with another, I don't think Cardi B's black, but whatever. People do. So an urban person, Latin, black, Latin, right? And then she was ordered after that to take the videos down. And she said she wouldn't make videos being defiant to that, right? My thing is, and then by the way, she lost the suit for cyberbullying. Yeah. That's never good. Now, look, people know I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the fan of Thomas Sotomayor, but but he has a right to speak. Right. If you compare those two things, you in no degree can make that make sense at all. You cannot put Tommy on a permanent ban and then let her go ahead. And makes you that better than I can.
Have you ever just taken a moment to watch Tasha K's content? She literally says every red flag word that we cannot say.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm.
Every red flag word.
And she is just so comfortable.
From the F word about the Rainbow Coalition to the J word about the small hats to the P word in reference to the female body part. She says everything.
Right.
Everything. And the fact, look, let me say this. I've been on YouTube for a while. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you right now, you can be talented or not talented. You could have great content or crappy content. The only way YouTube channels blow up is when they put those channels in the recommended algorithm.
Right.
Okay. That is the only time those channels reach, astronomical numbers or whatever. Right. Mm-hmm. With any guys that are talking about anything that has anything to do with advocating for men or any of that, if you're not pandering and doing the soft shoe, we got to protect all of these women, and you brothers are wrong for saying this about women and this, that, and the third. Unless you're doing all of that, you're gonna catch all kinds of hell. Now, and of course, you know how it go. Everybody knows the history of this country. They always let certain people get through. That's to justify it and say, okay, well, that's not what it is. You know what I'm saying? So we got certain people that were able to, creep through the door, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? We have people that are like the spook that sat next to the door. But for the most part, they're not going to allow too many of us to have large platforms, because it would cause, just the little platforms that we have has caused a tremendous cultural shift.
Right.
A tremendous cultural shift. That's why it's funny to me, because, I do my content and I'm just sitting back and guys are like, yo, we need the space because we need people speaking and we need this and we need, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. The damage is already done. You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
The men have woke up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got Cam Newton saying stuff and then them coming after him.
Yeah.
You got Tachina Arnold saying what she said and then trying to walk it back. But see, I don't trip about them trying to walk it back, because I look at the fact they said it initially. That means that there's a certain amount of penetration of the ideology,
right?
Where they're looking at it like, wait a minute, why is this going on? So you can destroy a lot of things, but one thing you can't destroy an idea.
No, you can't destroy an idea. Shout out to Luke Casey for that $20 super sticker, and that is a deal, right? Ingram, go ahead, brother. I know you want to say something. Go ahead, man.
No, man, I'm just sitting here listening to the brothers, man, just pouring out this knowledge out here, because at the end of the day, man, even with my channel being a small channel, I just retired last year in August, and I did 24 years in law enforcement. And I just started doing content for men. I have boys, and obviously I want them to be in a better situation in terms of where we're going forward, for the future. But what I see now is, I think the message has resonated. Because let's be honest, regardless of whether or not they try to silence us or not, the reality is that there's so many brothers that are just sitting on the sidelines. So they're not really wifing up these women like that. I think the marriage rate in the black community is like 5.5 per 1,000. The white community is 6.5. It's down, like it's historical lows. So what I'm saying is that from a perspective of business, if men aren't buying in, no matter if you try to silence the Ingram Experience, Angry Man, or Andy Anderson, the kosher, at the end of the day, man, we're at the 20 all-time low, 26% marriage rate in the community is going down. So, the product, which is black women, which is sad, it's not selling because dudes aren't wiping them up. But there's still a bunch of bullets.
You know what's going to have to happen? A Republican president is going to have to be elected, and he's going to have to do something to give an incentive to get things. Ronald Reagan did this back in the day. They had the free love movement, the hippie movement. You know, some of y'all might be old enough to remember, like, they had the whole, you know, get a haircut hippie, all of that stuff. And they had a major problem because people were not buying into the American dream. Right. And Ronald Reagan had to give them incentives to do so, to get it back on track. And what they don't realize, and they may never realize it, but sooner or later, somebody is going to have to pass some legislation to actually give an incentive for people to build families again. Like, the only way this country is going to continue to be the country that it's always been, you can't have this country without intact family units. I mean, look at the mess that's going on right now.
Right. I agree with family and believe in it. And I do believe that the institution of marriage is very powerful as it relates to stability. Right now, Ingram, man, they saw something, and they said the two of the fastest growing countries. Actually, Nigeria right now, man, is shooting super fast by America. Nigerians right now, over 200 million people, man. And Nigeria is the next superpower based on the show that I saw. They are the next superpower. Go ahead.
I mean, you know, that I'm not going to speak on that, because here's the thing. I got high hopes for, like, Nigeria, but you know how it is. You got China and Africa, you got a lot of stuff, the BRICS and all that. So I'm hopeful on stuff like that. Their population cannot be denied. And obviously Africa across the board is gaining in population, but while, you know, all other major countries are falling, it's just a matter of the degree. But one thing that I wanted to add in too, to piggyback on what y'all was saying, the Z's are not having this conversation with sisters like the millennial. We are all products of our own generational program. Right. Whether it's Xers, boomers, whether it's millennials, and even you can see it with the younger millennials. The younger millennials are not playing this game with women. We're talking to women. Even when I said mentally transmitted disease, it's almost like we're like, when you look at SWP for somebody like me, because SWP is like a 37. Then you got folks like 39. You know, as far as millennials, as you go down that age group, they're less and less tolerant to that. Because remember, I grew up with the girl next door era. You know, these Z's didn't grow up with that. These Z's grew up with Nicki Minaj. That's what they grew up with. They grew up with Trina, and then they're doubling down on that to where you got obviously Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B. What I look at more than anything is Chloe Bailey. Because then you look at a chick like Chloe Bailey, who should be like Beyonce, not the same skill, but as far as how they present her looks wise, and because she looks the part, all this stuff, you know, natural, and she should be somebody they should be pushing to sell Prada and international. What they got her doing, bouncing her. And look, I'm not saying that women should not be sexual. Obviously, Beyonce was able to pull that. Kelly Rowland, we get that. But the point is, the fact that they got her on almost 304 level, that tells you how strong that pull is. So the Z's, their default mode is these 6 to 304s, and so they on pump and dump or whatever. They're not thinking about marriage like that, and that's not going to change. So here's the thing: the earliest Z's are like 24 years old. My youngest brother's 25. He's a bleeding edge. In 6 years, they will be 30. We know what women, when they peak in their looks, and you already see it. They're talking about colorism. Why are these dudes not dating black women? This, that. And here's the thing: we not lying to them young dudes. Them young dudes don't need us to tell them nothing. The only thing they gonna do when they ask us is be like, "Look, man, y'all on the right track." I had to do that with SWB, Sergeant Willie Pete, one of the older heads. Like, you know, they talk about the stuff in 1.0 days. He used to be one of the in the middle. Now he on some. I can't tell black men with good conscience to be dealing with sisters or Western women.
Wait a minute. Back up. Sarge said that?
Yes, and I emailed it to BGS because, you know, they had back and forth, and he didn't just say that in one video. You can go to his last video he did 3 days ago. He's consistently saying that.
I can't advise it either, man. I can't advise any of these young men to wife up these women.
But you got to realize how significant that is. But SWP is one of the. But SWP is like one of the original, like, really having backseat in YouTube. Yeah, once upon a time, there was that reply video thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sarge went off on me in 2016. He went off on me about, he didn't say my name, but I know he was talking to me because it was right after I dropped a pre-recorded video in reference to something like that. And he kind of threw a couple shots at me, and just out of respect for him being Sarge, I left him alone. Right. But I basically said, like, you'll see. Right. That's why it's funny to me that you said he's saying that, because look, here's the thing with all of us any of us that are Gen Xers. We had a cruel joke played on us. And the cruel joke that was played on us as if I would have been born later, I probably wouldn't have even had kids. I probably wouldn't have even got. The whole reason I ended up in my situation is because I wholeheartedly believed in the traditional model. Right. And little did I know the women were on a different program, right? So it's crazy because the Gen Zs, they're like the group that was born after the zombie apocalypse. You know, so they don't know what civilization looks like.
Right.
They just know survival mode. They just know